Transform your Christian school culture through the Flourishing Journey with Dr. Edward Bunn, ACSI Professional Development Director.
Welcome to the Flourishing Journey podcast. I'm Dr. Edward Bunn, and I will serve as your travel guide throughout this podcast series. We'll explore strategies and principles for building a school culture that truly thrives. Each month, we'll take a brief pit stop centering around a relevant, flourishing construct as together we journey into the world of ideas, research, and practice. Well, hello, flourishing practitioners, and welcome to the second of 3 episodes around the flourishing domain of expertise and resources. You know, an area of this domain that I believe is critical to our success is hiring the right people for the mission. You know, Vander Bloemen asserts this: the most expensive hire you'll ever make is the wrong hire. So with this in mind, we're going to jump into our primary topic today with Mike Allen as we explore the quality hiring construct around a healthy workplace culture. Mike Allen is an organizational leader passionate about culture, communication, and connection. Having worked in education for 20 years and in educational administration for over a decade, Mike's ultimate vision for his leadership is to help other leaders move their people and organizations forward in a positive way. He currently serves as the superintendent of Evansville Christian School, a multi-campus school system providing a Christ-centered education to 1,100 plus students, pre-K through 12th grade. Mike is married to his wife, Kim, with whom they share 4 incredible children. He also, which I love, moonlights as the parody principal on YouTube for snow days and other special school sessions. You got to check that out, people. Well, Mike, welcome today to the Flourishing Podcast.
Man, this is a gift right here, what you're doing for people. This is a big passion of mine. And anytime I get an opportunity to have a conversation about culture, I'm in.
Oh, awesome. Well, Mike, I just want to dive right in then. The first question around quality hiring is this, what specific qualities do you believe are essential for teachers and even leaders in Christian education? And maybe how can schools assess these during the hiring process?
You know, I had an opportunity to actually talk to somebody probably about 10 years ago, a gentleman who gave me a break in my career. And it was a break out of nowhere. And I caught up with this gentleman probably 2 years later and said, why me? I mean, I wasn't qualified for a job. I didn't have the paper for a job. And he said something that changed the way that I think about people and hiring people. And he said, Mike, and by the way, this isn't a humble brag. This is just one of those things where it's like, man, you don't know what people are seeing and what you need to be seeing that's different than what others see. And he said, Mike, you're smart and you value people. And that goes a long way. And so, man, I have carried that along the way as you look at who are you looking to bring on a team. Number one, I mean, in a Christian school, clearly we're talking about people who understand and recognize what a Christ-centered worldview is. But just at the grassroots level of what skills and what characteristics they need to bring in, man, are they smart people that value people? If they're smart people that value people, paper doesn't matter. It adds, sometimes it might smooth the runway a little bit, but smart people who value people are going to be learners. They're going to be curious. They're going to be professional. They're going to be discerning. They're going to be faithful, right? And which is funny, I just bring those 5 words up. We as a school have started leaning into and creating some behavioral core values that we're looking to kind of assess our people by and look for our, as we hire in people, there are 5 characteristics we're really looking for. And we've gone into depth on each of them, but they really are: is this person faithful? Is this person proactive? Are they curious? Which I think is the biggest characteristic of a teacher are they a learner? Is a teacher a learner is a big deal. Are they discerning? Do they have wisdom, right? And then are they professional? Do they know what it means to work on a team and to work in a place where you're leading not just children, and but you're leading families, and that's a big, big deal. I think the other thing I would say is a big deal is we have somebody, we're fortunate enough at our school to have a director of spiritual formation, and he sits in on all of our interviews. And I can't tell you the number of times that schools sometimes go to hire somebody and they just have to fill the position, so they want to make a panic hire. And we have a guy who sits in and just is looking at the spiritual, the spiritual life of this person. They've asked questions. This guy knows, number one, he knows what he's talking about across so much theology that's not necessarily something that every school has, but find that person who can assess where this person's faith is. And because if their faith isn't in the right place, they're not going to lead in the way that you want to lead as a school.
Man, I love this, and I love your starting point. I want to kind of go back to that just for a second here. Your starting point was, we want to hire people that simply love other people.
Yes.
I mean, we're in the, don't take this the wrong way. We're in the people business. We're in the people ministry, right? God's called us to love Him really well, and He's called us to love others, and we get to play that out in the context of Christian education. So I love that starting point, and then even your wraparounds. What are some of those qualities, characteristics, a lifelong learner, somebody who can discern and has wisdom? And I love that you mentioned just being proactive. I think that really makes a difference in those that are teaching, those that are leading, that they lead in a very proactive, visionary manner. What's the vision for my classroom? And how do we get there? What's the vision for my administrative responsibility, and how do we get there? There's something about being proactive in light of, that central point of loving people well and valuing people well. So that's great. And
I want to tell you real quick, just that,
yeah,
we say a lot of times, just to that point, that it's much easier to pull a rope back than it is to push one. And
absolutely.
If you got somebody with vision and proactivity that's just out of the gates, and you got to pull them back, you better thank God.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I want to add on. I do love having your spiritual life director as a part of the interview process. That's wisdom. So let's jump to number 2 here. Talk to me. In your experience, what are the most significant challenges currently facing Christian schools when it comes to attracting and even retaining quality educators?
It's funny, as I think about that question, there are 2 things that come to mind, and it's hard to put one above the other, though I should put one above the other. So I'm going to put the one I should put above the other first, and that is worldview. You look at all the Barna Group data, 50% of professed Christians don't actually have a biblical worldview. I think it's a pretty big deal that just hiring people that actually attracting people that actually hold a Christian worldview is very difficult. I think when people see, every time we have positions that are hired, sometimes it's amazing to me to see who applies, because boy, sometimes you're just like, wow, that's what you think our school is. It's a moral school, right? And we're not a moral school. Christian schools should not be moral schools, right? We should be schools that are just bent on helping students understand what it means to embrace a biblical worldview, right? So worldview is a big deal. Another thing, and this is, things that I think every school would understand, and that is pay. It's very challenging right now to be in a place where Christian schools typically have to pay under market. We're actually in a part of our strategic plan right now is to get our staff to market value. We gave all of our staff a 10% raise last year. We've got a 5-year plan to get our staff up to a between 90 and 100% of market public pay, right? But ultimately, what you're looking at is in Christian education hiring, you got this bullseye, right? You got this target, and it's great teachers who are Christians with the right worldview who can work for a percentage of what they could make anywhere else.
Right.
So it really begs the question, like you're looking for unicorns in a lot of ways. And also, which means you got to make sure that if you find the unicorn, get them on staff, right? Get them on staff. I think sometimes schools are too dependent upon, quote, the matrix, the pay matrix. Years inputs are all that determines salary. And I'm telling you, you got to get off it. You got to get off it. You got to figure it out. And that's something not just for a head, that's something for a board to engage, because we've got to fix the gap. We can't ask every single person to come on at our school to be a martyr for their home. And we're all called to be martyrs for the faith, but this is different, and this is different, and maybe you disagree, but this is different to me.
No, this is good. I love how you couch that with two majors. We could talk about a lot of significant challenges, right? But on the table today, worldview, and you said it well. I mean, but that's what we're hearing. Lots of school leaders are saying, hey, just finding somebody that, believes God's word and lives God's word and does life with his word in mind, it's more and more challenging. So true, so foundational. We're hearing it in the research, we're hearing it in anecdotal sidebar conversations. But I love how you went also the other way, and let's talk about something that's really practical. And that's how we take care of our teachers. Part of the question is, how do we retain them, right? And so taking care of teachers who are called, who are professional, who lay down their life. There's lots of careers that we could say the very same thing, but this is our context today for this podcast. So, taking care of your teachers. You said it at the very beginning, do we value people? You just demonstrated that you value your teachers, and not only do you say it verbally, but you're creating some ways and means to do that in a realistic way with your current, teachers, so that you can retain them and express value during that process of retention. So I love that.
We had a gentleman who recently told us that he said Christian school teachers are the single biggest donors to your school. And think about how we treat the biggest donors to our school, right? We should treat our teachers as the single biggest donors to our school.
That's great, and what a way to frame that too, right? Because that's a whole different type of mindset around providing for and caring for your teachers and your leaders in your school. Excellent. Well, this gets us to question 3 today, Mike. So we're moving from some significant challenge to a little bit some innovative strategies, if you will. And we hinted towards this, but what innovative strategies or approaches even have you seen schools or even your school successfully implement to broaden that candidate pool, if you will?
It kind of goes a little bit back to question 1, where I said, what does it mean? Look for smart people that value people. In the middle of COVID, at the summer after COVID, right? We'd been out since March. Everybody, it's nice to have a shared experience with everybody in the country. That summer, in June, the high school principal we had told me that he was resigning. And I will tell you, I didn't sweat a drop because I knew the person that I was going to ask to be the principal. And the reason is, number one, I had somebody come to me recently and say, probably a year or 2 prior, and said, this person has administrative giftings. I just want you to know that, as a teacher that'd been with us for a while, this person has administrative giftings. And so I had gone to this person ahead of time and just said, man, I really think you should entertain getting your administrative license, right? This person was not finished with their administrative license. As soon as the current principal was in the presence of resign, when somebody calls you in the office, they have that tone of like, I'm resigning, right? It's that like radar that's going on, and but I just went in, and part of it is when people resign, I don't make it their problem. You know what I mean? God, thank you that you have given them a place, that you've given them a calling. But in my head, I knew I cannot wait to go talk to this person. This person did not have experience. This person did not have even the paper, but this person was the right person, right? So sometimes I think you think it has to look a certain way when you're missing somebody that might be right there ready to go. So my first encouragement is to say, look at your staff. In terms of leadership, look at your staff and say, who's there? Who's got the giftings, right? And then don't be afraid to take a chance on them, right? If you put somebody in a position and then you don't support them, that's on you. That's not on them. That's on you. So bring people in that have the giftings for leading people. And I will tell you, this person, somebody has told me, they said, Mike, that's the best hire you've made. And I'm like, oh, God, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. I think the second thing when it comes to teachers is we're really trying to lean into some college partnerships. We have in Indiana here, we have several Christian colleges. We've had our high school principal and some others go, meet with Indiana Wesleyan. I'm going up in November to meet with a coalition of school leaders here in Indiana with Taylor University, and really trying to figure out how do we smooth that pipeline for student teachers, for just helping people understand what it is, where the schools are that are, thriving. A lot of time, I have a son who is looking to get into education and Christian education specifically. And I'm just like, man, so now I'm thinking about this. What do I want for his experiences? How do I want him to be able to be connected? And we're looking at even things like sometimes student teachers, you got to find somebody that's in the area. Who knows, can we do for exchange students, we ask families to sponsor an exchange student. We might ask families to sponsor a student teacher and let the student teacher live in their house rent free.
Excellent.
For the time. So we're just looking, we want to take buses of kids up to schools and bring them back and start to build that connection with Christian worldview training centers, so that we know what teachers, what our teachers are learning as we bring them in.
Yeah, that's great. The first part of that, half of your answer, you leaned into kind of that identification process, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
How are we as a school identifying the future leaders, those emerging leaders? And part of that is noticing those gifts of leadership, gifts of administration, those people skills necessary to live at that level and do well at that level. So that's excellent. And I would encourage, lots of schools, hey, if you don't have a formal identification process, then create that. What does that look like for you? And then you talked in the second half there specifically to teachers, how do we really re-engage or develop further that pipeline? Right. And you said it great. You talked about, let's deepen the networks. Let's look what's around us, what's in our state, who's coming up through these programs. How do we create relationships with those individuals, but clearly the relationships with the organizations, the colleges and universities, and other options as well. So, hey, this has been great, Mike. I really think we could actually do, a lot longer on this particular topic. It is a hot topic. We're hearing it a lot, again, from the research and then also just in conversation, making sure, how do we make sure we're hiring in a quality manner in today's culture? It's different. And so let's agree together that we'll continue this conversation as an association, as our member schools. So thank you today, Mike, for journeying with us around the flourishing construct of quality hiring and just sharing your ideas and your strategies. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure it's been.
Yeah. Well, viewers, join us next time on the Flourishing Journey podcast as we continue this series on a healthy workplace culture.
The Flourishing Journey is a presentation of the Association of Christian Schools International. Foster a flourishing school culture by visiting acsi.org/flourishing.